Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tavern Adjacent. Today, we are going to be going down a rabbit hole. I'm bringing you with me this time because a couple weeks ago, I stumbled into a series of videos. A series of videos that attempted to cancel Ginny D because she did not like D&D 2000, a movie from 23 years ago. And oh my god, it took me places I never thought I'd go. And I need to tell someone about it. Frankly, I need to share this information because if it's just going to be stuck up here, trapped in my mind, I think I'll go insane. So I am imparting it to you. You shall share this burden with me. Thanks in advance, by the way. After that, we're going to be talking Homebrew. We're bringing back Crispy's Homebrew Corner because I made a few D&D races, and I want to talk about them. I'm going to give you guys the lore, going to give you guys the mechanics. It's lots of fun stuff. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a really fun episode. Without further ado, guys, let's get started. All right, so how did this whole thing begin? Well, for starters, I want to acknowledge that this is kind of old hat. This whole thing went down a few months ago when the D&D movie was being released. I have only recently found it, and the reason I want to talk about it is because it has relations to some stuff that I want to talk about anyway. It kind of ties in, so I'm bringing it all full circle. And also, like I said earlier, I need to share this information because even though I went down this rabbit hole a few months late, it possesses my mind, and I must be free of it by sharing it with you guys. So, it all began when Ginny D made a video called I Watched D&D 2000 So You Didn't Have To. Basically, she made a video tearing apart the old D&D movie from the year 2000, a movie that everybody hated. I mean, a lot of people were actually doing this. I saw a few videos tearing apart this movie because D&D was making a new movie, Honor Among Thieves, a better movie by far, and she was basically looking at what was old so she can compare it to what is new. That is like the idea of her video. She did a really good job. She doesn't usually do movie reviews, so I was pretty impressed. I had a lot of fun watching that video. It was harmless, and I moved on with my life, I thought it was fun. But little did I know, this video caused a war in the shadows. A war fought in Ginny D's comment section, at least at first. So, it all started with a comment from this guy. Come on. Why dump on a 23-year-old movie? Exactly at the time Hasbro is about to fix the problem. Are you purposefully trying to break ties with Hasbro and never get invited back for D&D coverage going forward? If so, job well done. If not, why? Really, why? This is cruel. Ginny D responded with a few laughing emojis, but this guy kept on going. This is a hill he's ready to die on. And now I've seen some people ready to die on some very strange hills. There's a forensics major in my comment section giving me his life story right now because he wants to disprove asexuality. It is very strange, but this is somehow even stranger than that. Essentially, he believes that post-OGL crisis, which if you're unaware, is a licensing debacle that went down at the beginning of 2023, post-OGL crisis with Dungeons & Dragons, Ginny D is trying to sidestep the brand. She's trying to move on. She's packing up her bags and kicking D&D to the curb. He really, really, really believes this. Even though there's not really much to go on, she still makes Dungeons & Dragons videos. She still clearly likes the game. I know she likes the game, in fact, because I actually have the privilege of being associated with her Dungeon Master. He was in a few of my games, and I know him on Discord. Nice guy, by the way. But yeah, anyway, that aside, my point is that what this guy is going off of is basically nothing. She's making fun of a really old movie that everybody hates, and he's using that as a bouncing board to spout this whole conspiratorial nonsense about how she's trying to destroy Dungeons & Dragons and sabotage the new movie because the boycott against the D&D movie failed, so she needs to be more stealthy about it by doing this. It's a lot. It is a lot to take in, and eventually it makes Ginny D kind of, she puts down a comment basically saying that, let me read the first line just so you get the tone of it. It is wildly insulting that you are so convinced that I'm paid off that you won't even allow me a chance to speak. That's the first sentence. And she goes on to basically eliminate every point this dude makes, which, you know what? It was a pretty good roasting that he didn't even deserve. I mean, he's lucky to get roasted, honestly. I mean, most people wouldn't even give him that. So he should count himself as quite fortunate. Unfortunately, he did not count himself as quite fortunate. After giving a YouTube commenter apology, which is kind of lame, by the way. I mean, in this current age of YouTube, comment apologies, You got to bust out the ukulele these days. We're upgrading our YouTube apologies, all right? We're moving forward, all right? It's a new age. This kind of stuff is just not going to do. This is vanilla. You got to go forward. But, even if it's just a YouTube commentary apology, it still contains some of the classic tropes of YouTube apologies, including but not limited to lying, just straight up lying. The guy says he's sorry, he was wrong, but he proceeds to make a 5-video series trying to prove how he's not wrong. So, let's get into that. I will be playing some brief clips, but I will be trying to save you from the cringe. I've actually recorded this a few times because this dude films all of his videos while driving, meaning that he's not focused on, one, the driving, which, that's a horror story for another day when something horrible happens to that car, but story for another day. Number two, the other problem is that he's not focused on making the video, so he's very, very disjointed. He goes from point to point to point. I tried my best to keep it all, in my head, but my God, it's a lot. The first video, and the series in general, is my difficult conversation with Ginny D. A tragedy in 5 parts. That last bit I made up. But, it is in 5 parts, and the runtime is an hour, so it's quite a bit of content. But it's a lot of repeating himself. He says the same things over and over and over again, and he never gets to the point. He's really bad at it, in fact, which is a trait that we share, but, I feel like I'm a little better at it. The point is, see, look, me getting to the point, is that he begins the series by going over the comment exchange he had with Ginny D, the conversation, quote unquote, where he essentially reiterates the point that Ginny D is trying to sabotage the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and therefore Ginny is trying to break off from Dungeons and Dragons as a brand. I think he's realizing that this doesn't make any sense, so he tries to pivot and, create more justifications for why this must be true. Because he can't be wrong. He can't be wrong. There needs to be some kind of justification. So he will hammer any facts he can find into fitting into this narrative. For example.
And I actually said it in the comments, but I'm like, because I don't think you even remotely know where you are with D&D. I've sensed for a while that she's confused. She's making her money from D&D, but doesn't want to be beholden to D&D, and doesn't want to talk it up, because the cool kids don't talk up D&D now. And she definitely wants to be a cool kid, in my humble opinion.
Right, she wants to be one of the cool kids who are playing those indie RPGs, those awful indie RPGs. She's confused. She doesn't know what she is anymore. She makes her money from Dungeons and Dragons, but she's trying to play those indie games now. And that's why she's doing this. That's why she's trying to sabotage the D&D movie. Well, first and foremost, I haven't seen Ginny D making any videos about indie RPGs aside from a Kobold Press sponsorship, so don't really know what you're talking about, man. But other than that, this is a very concerning narrative that does exist in the wider TTRPG space. This idea of games having sides, which is so stupid. This is like the PS5, Xbox Series X console war, but somehow even dumber. Look, play the kind of game you want to play, okay? Play whatever you want to play. End of story. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no other argument to be had. Play the games you want to play. Period. End of argument, okay? That's it. I play 5e. Y'all play other things? I don't know. I don't know all of you guys. But, you guys play the games you like. I'll play the game that I like because, I like 5e. And right now, I am enjoying rewriting this game to be my own thing. I'm having a lot of fun doing that. And that's my business, right? Some people have tried to make it their business by saying that I'm wrong and stupid to do this, wrong and dumb to make my own game, wrong and dumb to play, 5th edition or whatever. And frankly, that's stupid. That's annoying, okay? I just play the game that I like. I play the game that I enjoy because that's what I love doing. This game is for fun, I'm not trying to rewrite the wheel. I'm not trying to, do anything with my tastes. I'm just trying to have a good time. And with this game, I've had a great time for a long time. And it's awesome. This guy doesn't see it like that, though. If you're not on 5e's side, you're the enemy. And Ginny D, she's becoming the enemy by joining those cool kids and their indie RPGs post-OGL Crisis. By the way, somehow this dude manages to be, pro Hasbro, because he goes on for more justifications. He's got to find other ones, because I think he's also realizing that these justifications are dumb, so he reaches even further. He reaches to say that Ginny D is anti-Hasbro, that she's one of the Twitter communists who's attacking Hasbro for making money.
Hasbro makes $5 billion a year. That's chump change, right? It's nothing, right? Communists up on Twitter are like, how dare you make $5 billion?
Are you saying that Hasbro is too small of a company to be made fun of? Hasbro? It's even funnier because after this whole bit, he goes on to say that Hasbro should be making more money. They should be making $250 billion, just like those useless video game companies. Which is hilarious because Hasbro is valued more than like a lot of very famous game developers. Like a lot. It's shocking. Not all of them, of course, but Hasbro is not a small company. So him saying that Hasbro is like this small fish competing with those big, bad, evil video games? What? Also, the idea that Hasbro is too small, like, can we go back to that for a second? Like, I guess, not only can you make fun of Hasbro, can you not make fun of Hasbro, I suppose, but you can also not make fun of any other company smaller than them, obviously. So, small indie company Hasbro is joined by small indie company Ubisoft, valued at less than half of Hasbro's value. So I guess no more complaining about Assassin's Creed getting stale, no more complaining about stupid microtransactions, no more complaining about them remaking Far Cry 3 over and over again. Nope, they're a small indie studio. They are above reproach. Nope, no more criticism. No more. Like, come on, man. Hasbro being too small to be made fun of is a buck wild take, and saying that Ginny D is trying to, destroy D&D because she said that Hasbro is a corporate overlord. What? By the way, they are. Hasbro's a corporation. What else do you want me to call them? Nicer words? What? I'm not even really, some dude who talks that much about corporations all the time. I'm just not that kind of guy. I know where my money comes from and I know where my money goes, and I'm just not comfortable. I feel like it's hypocritical of me to be constantly complaining about corporations, though I complain about them sometimes. I mean, come on, I'm human, which apparently this guy isn't because he's like some corporate bootlicker. I didn't think those even existed anymore. I thought they were all rich, which clearly this guy isn't, but come on, what are you doing, man? He goes on to also complain that Ginny D disrespects Dungeons & Dragons and doesn't understand D&D because she destroyed a promoter box. If you're unaware, Hasbro sent Ginny D a box shaped like a mimic that contained a bunch of merch, toys, and stuff. She destroyed the box in a YouTube short because it's a mimic. It's a monster. It has to be slain. She grabs a plastic sword, destroys it, opens up the box, shows the products, participates in the promotion because, that's the gig. And yeah, it was a perfectly harmless YouTube short. But this guy took personal offense to that because, according to him...
First of all, Ginny D, that ain't a box of toys. Let's talk about it, okay? You could have turned that into you could have turned that into $100,000 easily.
This box is worth way more than Ginny D could ever comprehend. This box apparently was worth $100,000. She could have sold this thing for $100,000. What? For a guy who seems to think money is the end-all be-all of everything, apparently he also doesn't understand that Hasbro and their box is not worth anywhere close to $100,000. What are you talking about? Look, I speak with a little bit of authority on this because I do actually collect toys. This guy is talking about selling toys to collectors. I collect toys too. I collect Lego. And I'm going to tell you right now, all of the products inside that creator box, for the majority of them, they were non-exclusive. And the box itself can't be sold. Okay, I can't sell, my Lego Yellow Submarine box without the Yellow Submarine in it. Okay, that would be stupid. All right. The idea that this box would be sold for $100,000 is just buck wild and insane. I guess the idea that he's going with is there was only a few thousand of these made for promoters. You're right, there is. But the problem is demand. What are people willing to pay for something? That's what creates the collector market. You need demand for the thing in order to sell it for a lot of money. For example, back to Lego, Mr. Gold is an exclusive minifigure. Only a few thousand of him were made, right? There is demand for him. And even for Mr. Gold, a heavily in-demand figure, you can only sell him for a few $1,000s. Not $100,000. No one is going to offer to pay $100,000 for a cardboard mimic box. So Ginny D destroying it with her plastic sword? Really not that big of a deal, man. Probably not worth canceling her over. Come on. It's this whole situation, what makes it transcendentally funny for me was when I go down into the comments. Because when you see a video that's talking crap about Ginny D, look, there are some people that just don't vibe with her content. Perfectly okay. Some of her latest videos I haven't watched because, they just didn't pique my interest. That's all good, right? But let's be real. There are also people who don't like Ginny D because girl. She is girl. So, incels, basically. And therefore, incels showed up in this guy's comments. People saying, oh yeah, Ginny D, she's only popular because she's pretty and is girl, and all of her simps will provide her living. But, dude, even still, like, this video is going a little bit far for me. Like, I found a few comments of people going on and on about how Ginny D's just this gross woman, but then ending off by saying, still, man, this stuff makes no sense. One guy was even complaining, saying, you made me defend Ginny D. This guy is so crazy that he makes incels think twice. You know you've gone too far when you're in that position, man. Come on. To cap off this whole thing, I mean, we've gone on a lot of rabbit holes, because this guy dug a lot of rabbit holes. We've gone from criticizing the D&D movie as sabotaging Hasbro and D&D, to you can't criticize Hasbro because it's too small of a company, to Ginny D's a bad person because she destroyed a promoter box, to cool kids and indie RPGs are bad because something, they don't make as much money, I guess. And all of this originated based on the false assumption that this creator, Ginny, is trying to sabotage the new D&D movie. I'm sorry, man, but I'm gonna need to put on my fucking double seeing glasses because I can't even begin to see the amount of bullshit coming from you. By the way, I haven't been able to see for like the past hour of recording this because I actually do need those glasses, but I will endure for the sake of not having glare in the camera. The reason I want to talk about all this is because this whole rabbit hole we went down, it is based in something that I do think is becoming a problem, not in necessarily the D&D creator space, but just in the wider creator space, and that is parasociality. People, viewers, having way too close of a relationship and assuming they know way more about creator and their life and their career than they actually do. This guy made a lot of assumptions. And look, I don't know Ginny D. I don't know her. Maybe this guy is right about everything, but he has literally no proof other than, I think this, in my humble opinion, that. Look, you can't your humble opinion away from the truth being that this is really parasocial stuff that is extremely concerning. Now, in this case, I don't think this guy is going to cause any harm, right? I'm sure, I'm sure it was annoying. I would be annoyed if I was dealing with this crap, but, I don't think this guy's causing any, palpable harm, but this is the step one. This is where it starts. This is where that normalization of people making wild assumptions about a creator's desires for their career and their life, that's where it begins. This guy goes on and on about what Ginny D should want for her career, how she should want to be design lead for D&D or a Hollywood liaison. He makes fun of her for being an independent creator.
She's upset. She wants to be like, I'm free and independent and can, and can cover other games. You can cover other games. You can't make a living doing it, right? And I don't think she gets that now, right?
As an independent creator, look, I don't know her. I don't know her career. I don't know the ins and outs. But from my perspective, she's very successful, extremely successful. If I can make enough to live comfortably, she definitely makes enough to live comfortably, okay? More than comfortably. And frankly, congratulations. She's worked really hard to be in this position. Why would she give that all up? But to this guy, it's paramount that she does, because his desires for her career and his assumptions about what she wants, they are paramount, to the point where he'll make whole video essays about it. This all began because she responded to his comment. He goes on over and over again about how, it's unbelievable that she responded. It's crazy that she responded. It's insane that a creator like Ginny D would respond to my comment. He's mostly doing that because at one point Ginny says, why don't you ask me about what I want for my career? Because she was getting frustrated about his comments on her career and her desires for her career in the future. He got really mad about that because he was like, because you're Ginny D. I would never expected you to respond to my comment. But again, that kind of illustrates the point I'm trying to make here still. The point that this guy took a simple YouTuber's response to their comment and just drove it to infinity and beyond with an insane rabbit hole that covers way more than you could possibly imagine. Like, seriously, look back at all the stuff we talked about and realize it was just because she put some laughing emojis on his comment. This whole thing is something that I've noticed in a lot of spaces outside D&D. Ludwig made a great video about parasociality in relation to content creators. TMG Studios, Noel Miller and Cody Ko, they dealt with a lot of parasocial nonsense when Noel Miller got married because Cody, who is Noel Miller's comedy partner, did not attend the wedding. Most likely because it was in Italy across the world. But a lot of people were like, this is like my parents getting a divorce. It's crazy that that Cody wasn't at Noel's wedding. This is horrible. Are they breaking up? What's happening? It was so weird how personal people took the fact that Cody didn't go to Noel's wedding. A wedding that none of them were involved in. But it was apparently a personal attack to these fans. And to this guy, Ginny D not liking the D&D movie, that was paramount unto death. It was the worst thing ever. And Ginny D destroying the box and insulting Hasbro. It was way more than this guy could take, forging this parasocial hatred that was really... I mean, it was entertaining to watch. You know, I love watching somebody who is clearly talentless talking with such authority. It is entertaining to say the least. But with this, it was a little sad and scary because, again, that's where the sort of thing starts. And the fact that it's getting more and more normalized, it sucks. Even as a small creator, I deal with parasociality a lot. You know, I message Redditors to ask permission for their stories. When they realize who I am, some of them, they take their relationship with me a bit too far. People divulging intimate details about their lives to me. People asking for intimate details about my life, making assumptions about my life, my career, what I want, what I'm doing. It sucks. It's not fun. I don't really like talking about this sort of thing because I know how it sounds, you know, wah, I'm a YouTuber. I have problems. Wah, 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 wah. I get it. Like, I know that this is an awesome career. I love this job, man. It's great. And I think a lot of creators in my same space, they would agree. It's a great gig. But, you know, just like any other gig, it's got its drawbacks. And parasociality is one of those drawbacks. And it is becoming more and more normalized as time moves on. And I think that that's not good. With this whole comedic rabbit hole with trying to cancel Ginny D illustrates to me is an unfortunate growth of that sort of parasociality, even with the most minor things. At the end of the day, all Ginny did was make a video about an old movie and put some laughing emojis on a comment, and it sprouted this 5-video series and a dozen rabbit holes and a bunch of cancellation attempts over some really, truly, profoundly dumb stuff. And I think that's just... That, my friends, is a little crazy. With that being said, again, this is definitely not the most harmful example of this principle that, you know, I could talk about. I mean, for the love of God, that ukulele apology I briefly joked about earlier, I mean, that whole situation with Colleen Ballinger, that started with a parasocial relationship between a creator and the fans. Started by the creator, in this case, not the fans. It goes both ways. You know, it's this whole thing with JD and this dude, not the worst. But I thought it was at least an entertaining example, and we could use it to bounce off into something that I find important. I hope you guys enjoyed. You know, occasionally, we drop a little bit of tea on this channel, and I found this quite entertaining, to say the least, if you haven't noticed from my clear glee. This was pretty dumb, but I think I'm done. With this, I've wrapped this discussion. This man has plagued my brain for quite a bit. He's rattled me, not gonna lie, a little bit rattled. Because, again, like I said, watching somebody who is so clearly stupid talk with such confidence in themselves, it's a little bit addicting. But with this podcast, I declare my addiction over. Time to move on to something else. My other addiction, which is writing my D&D book. Let's get into it. Did I randomly decide to watch the entirety of Creed on my phone like a bum between takes of the first section and this section? Yeah, I did. I don't know why. It's like 1 a.m. right now, and I really want to finish this podcast. One of these days, I'm gonna do a section about Tavern Adjacent as a show, because we've done this show for 20 some episodes, and it's really awesome. I love doing this podcast. You know, it's really awesome that this has grown its own audience on Spotify and on YouTube. Like, I'm really happy you guys are all listening to this. But holy crap. The process of recording this is so weird to me because it's not difficult in the same way that anything else is difficult. Like, with this, I know I could, in theory, get all of Tavern Adjacent done in like an hour, recording-wise, and then editing takes like nothing. So this should be like my lowest rent show, but for some reason I spend so much time just sitting on my couch, not recording, and just being on my phone instead. Like, I don't know why, but this show makes me unproductive when I'm working on it. It's so weird. But anyway, you don't care about that. You're here for my homebrew. We're here for the Crispy's Homebrew Corner. It's been a bit. We did a bunch of horror stories for a bit, so we're bringing this back because for a bit I didn't have anything to talk about when it comes to my homebrew. However, that has shifted. I finally moved on from doing backgrounds. I'm still like prettying it up and making it a PDF, so if you guys want my background material for D&D backgrounds, I can release that. That's going to be like a future thing. Right now, though, in terms of making new material, races. I have done, so far, I have revamped Human, Asimar, Soul Sworn, Von Wheel, 2 new races, Elf, Sindara, aka Wood Elf, and I'm working on Drow, aka the Dark Elf. Those are what I have done so far. Now, if you're unaware, this project is Tales from the Tavern, a D&D minor adjustment, as I like to call it, because I don't really like calling it a rewrite. It's just a bunch of house rules that I'm sort of formalizing and putting together, adding a bunch of new mechanics, and making the game my own. There's a lot of things about D&D 5e that I love, but there's a lot of things I've wanted to add, and a lot of things I've wanted to systematize for a while. Like, for example, in my second D&D campaign, looting was a huge part of our game, looting monsters and harvesting parts from monsters, and then using that to craft stuff. Me and my friends, we are big Minecraft fans, so obviously we wanted to carry some of our love of that game into this game, given that we play Minecraft together about as much as we play D&D together. So, like, melding our two loves was only natural. And with races, I wanted to sort of standardize some mechanics with that. My general philosophy is optional increased complexity with baseline simplicity. I want there to be more for my players to interact with, and I want those interactions to be rewarding. I want races to also be more rewarding with their bonuses. Nothing too overpowered, but just a lot of flavor, because racial bonuses in both Campaign 1 and Campaign 2 that I've done of D&D 5e, which at this point has taken up like 5 years of my life, racial bonuses almost never came into effect. It almost never mattered. And I'm not going to say that it's going to matter here. I'm not saying that this is going to like rewrite the wheel or anything, but I do hope that some of these bonuses I'm introducing will be helpful and more helpful for my players. Now, I will say, on top of all that, a lot of this is very derivative. So what I'm going to be covering today, primarily, are the 2 races that I created for my games. Both of them obviously based on other things, but for starters, I think we should start with the Von Wheel. Godless harvesters of dead flesh. Hailing from the wastelands of Pangora, the Von Wheel are the most feared people of the Eastern lands. Their appearance is almost alien, with spider-like mandibles and 4 clawed arms attached to their carapace. Unlike most cultures, the majority of Von Wheel do not worship any god, choosing instead to revere ancient warriors of their history, both enemies and allies, who earn their place in what the Von Wheel call the Jagged Right, a cultural principle focused around tenacity and survival. However, these customs are not what give their enemies pause. Von Wheel are skilled at harvesting their dead foes to modify their bodies, even taking pieces of their own people to enhance their skills. Von Wheel bone witches turn the practice into ceremony, perfecting their warriors and preparing them for any threat that could face their people. The Von Wheel were one of the first things I created for my homebrew world, and as a people, they became very popular among my players, not really as enemies, but mostly as allies. The party negotiating with Von Wheel and finding their own way through the Von Wheel's customs was interesting. I fleshed out the Von Wheel the most because I made them, and I started to develop their customs around their Jagged Right and their body modifications. It was really fun, and watching the players navigate that, because they couldn't like Google what Von Wheel customs are. I made them up. So the players had to actually navigate it in the game, and that was really fun. There was a moment where the Von Wheel besieged a city the party were in. The city was not the best, so the party were happy to see its corrupt lord go down. However, of course, they got caught in the crossfire, and they needed to make peace with these Von Wheel marauders who didn't speak the common tongue. So they needed to decipher the Von Wheel's actions and movements as what they wanted the players to do. And luckily, the players succeeded in that moment. They didn't have to slaughter each other, so that was good. It was great, and developing this culture was fun, though difficult. I'm not the best at it. It's very derivative of the Hive from Destiny, though a little bit less ferocious. If you're unaware, the Hive and Destiny have this thing called the sword logic. Their principle is basically that if you die, you deserve to die, and killing is the best thing ever. The principle of the Hive is to whittle the universe down to a final perfect point by killing things, essentially, by killing a bunch of stuff. And the Von Wheel take that sort of in a different direction. The Von Wheel in my world, they believe that to survive among grave circumstance is the greatest thing you can do. You don't need to necessarily seek it out, but that's why their civilizations actually mostly exist in very harsh environments. The Pangoran wastes that they live in is this incredibly arid desert filled with horrific monsters, most notably the ferocious sand hydra that the Von Wheel routinely need to combat. Living in this environment has honed their warriors. And also, due to them being very monstrous in appearance, a lot of civilizations go after them, try to hunt them down. So the Von Wheel have had to become extremely defensive and protective of their caravans and their limited amount of cities. They're mostly a nomadic people needing to constantly stay on the move, and this has forged them into very, very potent warriors. However, this is not something they typically complain about, for they believe that through these circumstances, they become the best they can possibly be. Through survival, they become better. Now, of course, there are enemy Von Wheel factions that are a little bit more ferocious, more like the Hive that I base the Von Wheel's principles off of, that actively seek out war, that actively seek out to purge weakness from other civilizations to hone themselves. They take the principle and take it way, way further. The jagged right is something that all Von Wheel believe in. Fundamentally, survival is key, though some are more extreme about it. Just like in real life, how cultures spread across the world may have similarities, but some hold different things to be more important. For some Von Wheel, going out and finding conflict, actively seeking war, is the way to practice jagged right. For other Von Wheel, it's more important for them to stay insular, to survive what comes, to weather the storms that arrive, not necessarily seek storms out. Now, as for their body modification, Von Wheel fundamentally, no matter who they are, mostly believe that if you die, you had it coming. You were too weak to survive, and therefore desecrating your corpse is totally fair game. Most Von Wheel don't typically try to find old corpses for multiple reasons. People that died of old age don't typically have the strongest limbs for them to rip off and use, so it's just a practical reason. But also, they believe that if you survive to die of old age, you succeeded the jagged right just like any other, and therefore deserve to have your body respected. Though if you died in battle, a Von Wheel will happily rip your arm off and use it. Now, speaking of, this body modification is the most active part of the Von Wheel's active skill. For all my races, they have traits, which are generic bonuses that are shared across multiple races, a passive skill, a passive that enhances a race's abilities, and an active skill, something that is actively used either in combat or during roleplay. Now, we'll go over the active skill first because it's pertinent. The active skill. After a successful skill check to loot a dead creature, which is a mechanic in my games, you can harvest parts of the body to modify yourself. This process takes 1 hour. All effects are removed after a long rest or a short rest. If you harvest a humanoid/giant, you have advantage on perception and investigation checks. I flavor this as a Von Wheel taking out creatures' eyes and literally grafting it to their bodies. If you harvest a Draconid or an Elemental, you know the Chaos Bolt cantrip. You gain access to the Chaos Bolt cantrip. Intelligence is the spellcasting ability. If you harvest an Ooze or an Aberration, you gain resistance to psychic damage. I imagine this as a Von Wheel, like ingesting some alien substance, like from an Ooze or from an Aberration, to strengthen their resistance against effects against the mind. If you harvest a plant or a Fey, you gain advantage on saving throws against the poison status condition. For a fiend or undead, you gain resistance to necrotic damage. A monstrosity or beast, you gain an AC of 13 plus your dex modifier, so your base AC goes up. This does not count if you have armor, of course. Celestial/construct, when you roll initiative, you gain 1d6 temporary hit points at the beginning of combat. I flavored that as like a shield or some kind of holy barrier from the creature that you took the pieces from. So if it's a construct, you took some kind of metal pieces and it helps to protect you like a sort of energy shield. And for celestial, it's healing magic that's giving you more power before a fight starts. All of these, I think, fit really well. I was really happy when I wrote these all out. And it gives the Von Wheel a lot of flexibility. Also, you can stack these effects. You just lose them after a short or long rest. And I think this gives the Von Wheel kind of an alternate play style. Now, long rests aren't necessarily the best thing. If you're fighting a variety of creatures and you have a bunch of bonuses going for you, it might be pertinent to suffer through those exhaustion points. I use the 1D&D version of exhaustion, where you gain cumulative, what are they called? Minuses to rolls. Cumulative, it's 1 a.m. I can't think of the word, I'm sorry. But basically, as you gain more exhaustion points, your rolls are going to get worse. The amount of numbers you're going to need to subtract from your rolls gets higher. I'm sorry, words are really hard right now. It's 1 a.m., give me a break. But, you know, it might be worth it to weather those effects if you can stack a bunch of these Von Wheel body part modifications on top of each other. And frankly, like, having a bunch of these, you'll be really powerful. You'll be much more powerful, but, like, these aren't overpowered by any means. It just gives the Von Wheel a lot of flexibility, and I like that. It's a really cool flavor. I think it's really fun. I don't think it's too overpowered to have, like, 3 of these at once, and even that is pretty unlikely. I can't think of the amount of times my player characters have had time to take 1 hour to loot creatures. Like, this process per modification takes an hour each. And the amount of times my players are fighting a variety of monster types is like fairly low, all things considered. They're usually fighting like 2 types of monsters generously, like undead and elementals at the same time, or fiends and aberrations at the same time. You know, like usually just 1 type of creature, honestly, is the majority of what my players fight. So the amount of times a Von Wheel is going to be able to stack multiple parts on top of each other isn't super high, but when it's capable of doing that, I think it's pretty rewarding, and it gives them an alternate play style. I think that's a lot of fun. Now, the passive unique skill is you have a secondary pair of arms, because Von will have 4 arms, that can manipulate an object, open or close a door, container, pick up or set down a tiny object, or wield a weapon that has the light property. Nothing crazy. Honestly, even though this is cool, I wanted the unique passive to be based around the 4 arms thing. This is not that crazy of an ability. The amount of times I think this is going to be practical and useful is low, which is why the traits Von will have are pretty good. Starting off with Spider Climb, you have climbing speed equal to your walking speed. Claws, your unarmed attacks deal slashing damage, so bludgeoning damage. And finally, Unnatural Speed, you can use your bonus action to dash. That's pretty dang good. Again, I don't think it's overpowered. My players have been able to bonus action dash throughout my campaign. Like, half of my players were able to bonus action dash in my campaign 2, my second campaign. And it was not the end of the world. Them being able to bonus action dash was just friggin' fine. So having Von Will being able to do that base, not bad, especially since I imagine them being very fast. With their 4 arms and their legs, I imagine them kind of like running across the ground like a wolf. If you've seen The Fallen and Destiny, if you've seen the way they move across the ground, I imagine it like that super fast crawling motion. That's kind of like how I imagine the Von Will doing their bonus action dash. So overall, yeah, that's the Von Wheel. Body modifiers with a variety of ferocious abilities that they can gain by killing their enemies. Really fun. I think it introduces a neat alternative playstyle. It gives players a palpable bonus, and it can show some really fun flavor. So yeah, that's the Von Wheel. That's my original D&D race. I hope you guys like that. I think we have time for one other. Let's do the Soul Sworn. Another one that I developed specifically for a player who wanted a vampire race. I didn't know if I wanted to do like Dampier, and I looked at Dampier and their lore, and I was like, it's okay. I don't know if it fits what I'm looking for, though. So let's read the lore of my own homebrew undead vampire race, the Soul Sworn. Risen dead, born to feed. When a vampire lord loses control of their magics or is killed in battle, The Soul Sworn emerge from the chaos. Where once they were vampire spawn bound to their undead master, the newly born Soul Sworn find themselves without most of their memories and lost in a foreign world. Many must hide their true nature, as the people of Eris are distrustful of the risen dead, even if they have been released from the hands of evil. Soulsworn appear as withered versions of the people they once were, and can be anything from the mightiest dragonborn to the most timid gnome. No matter their appearance, like their vampire masters, they empower themselves with a very specific source: the blood of others. Fun stuff. So yeah, nothing crazy. These are a, weaker vampire race. Basically, they were once vampire spawned, but due to the death of their master, they have been thrust into a foreign world without most of their memories and greatly nerfed, because vampire spawn are like, I think in Flea Mortals, which is the monster manual I use, they're CR4? So obviously, if you're starting at level 1, you've been a little bit nerfed. But, let's go in order this time. Starting off with the traits, Soulsworn have 4 traits, which is a lot more than most. First, Undeath. You don't need to breathe, so you can hold your breath indefinitely, essentially. Dark Vision. You can see through dim light or non-magical darkness within 60 feet. You can't discern color, only shades of gray. Spider Climb. You have climbing speed equal to your walking speed. And Claws. Your unarmed strikes deal slashing damage, so bludgeoning damage. With the exception of Dark Vision and Spider Climb, Undeath and Claws are mostly flavor. The amount of times where breathing has been relevant in my games is low. In fact, sometimes I would prefer that my players don't worry about breathing, because I want to toss them into like an underwater level and don't want to worry about them, being concerned about oxygen. So having the Undeath trait, honestly, it helps me out more as a DM. Their passive skill is something that I want to try and introduce with my player character races in my own little homebrew corner here. Some races are going to have negative effects. The passive skill for the Soulsworn is, you have advantage on death saving throws made in darkness. You have disadvantage on death saving throws made in direct sunlight. I might make it advantage on death saving throws made in darkness or dim light, since I think darkness implies you need to be like within pitch black, which might be a very limited amount of times in like practical gameplay. So I might make it darkness and dim light. We'll see how it checks out. The person who wants to play the Soulsworn, my player Kyla, who plays Kalia Solfero's girlfriend Daphne, she is going to be playing our Soulsworn character. She is happy with the way the trait is written out right now. We'll see in gameplay how it actually pans out when we're actually like playing this thing, though. So yeah, I think this is really cool. I don't want there to be too much of a negative on playing a vampire character. Like, I want them to be useless in daylight, but my flavor is that with the Undead Master gone, the sunlight sensitivity has become less affecting on a Soulsworn's day to day. But once their body is weakened, once they're on the brink of death, whatever resistance to the sun's power is gone. And when they're on death's door, it's really hard for them to get back up when the sun is beaming down on them. I think that a vampire-type character should have some sort of sunlight thing still, and I think that this is a pretty good flavor for that, and it gives them another bonus. Advantage on death saving throws while in darkness or dim light is a pretty a pretty potent effect. I like it a lot. So I think this, this flipped coin of good and bad is a lot of fun. Now, in terms of their active bonus, I'm not gonna lie, dude. It's just the copy-paste of the Dampier's bite attack that I found on a D&D wiki, and I just rewrote a little bit to fit into my world and into my rule sets, which didn't need a lot of rewriting, honestly. It's good. I like this. It's basically a bite attack that can heal you a little bit, and you can do it as many times as your proficiency bonus. You can do it as many times as your proficiency bonus. Yes. The amount of times you can do it is equal to your proficiency bonus. There you go. God, words are so hard right now. I should not be recording this it's almost 2 a.m. I should really not be recording this right now, but we're here. We're doing it. But yeah, I really like the Dampier's bite attack, even if I wasn't like a huge fan of the lore and I didn't carry over everything from the Dampier. I mean, this is a Dampier conversion at the end of the day, and I think the bite attack worked out. I'm going to start using the whole proficiency bonus thing a lot throughout my writing, because honestly, because I don't want to associate any races with stats, I don't want to associate them with wisdom, constitution, all that. Because if you pick a race, I just want you to pick it for the flavor. I don't want you to like pick a race based on what stats you're already using. And I don't want a race to be useless just because you're playing a class that doesn't cater to it. So having the amount of times you can use abilities be tied to proficiency bonus is good because all classes have proficiency bonus, and it's a thing that goes up naturally as you level up. Honestly, I think it's a great idea. So yeah, the amount of times you can use the bite attack and empower yourself using it is equal to your proficiency bonus, which I think is perfectly balanced. It's like a 1d4 heal. It's not really that crazy, but it gives them a bite attack, and that's definitely fitting for the fanged vampires and drinkers of blood. Lots of fun. So how'd you guys enjoy this? I enjoyed it. Like, honestly, again, my work is derivative. I'm not claiming to be original here, but I had so much fun writing all this. Honestly, like a lot. The Soulsworn, the Von Wheel, especially writing the lore down, it's great. So if you guys are interested in more of this stuff, let me know, because I really enjoy talking about this. I really enjoy introducing you guys to more aspects of my world. Like, a lot of people are curious about my world, after Shadow over Carconos and Crown of Deceit. I give you guys a little flavor there. But here, I can give you a little bit more taste of the lore I've written. Eris is a big old world with lots of cool cultures and lore, and over time, I want to introduce you guys to more of it. Maybe it could help you guys create your own homebrew worlds. Who knows? But yeah, there you go. That's Crispy's Homebrew Corner. And I think with that, we're going to be wrapping up. It's time for Thing of the Week. Hit the thing. Okay, so this week's Thing of the Week, we're doing something a little bit different. I can't cook for the life of me. I mean, I can cook. I'm capable of it, but I don't do it often because I'm lazy. However, there's a dish that my father is quite fond of making. By the way, my father is an excellent cook. He's really good. And when I was growing up, I was spoiled. And when I moved out, whether it be with roommates or by myself, man, the one thing I did really miss was my dad's cooking. But now that I'm all by my lonesome, no family, no roommates, on my own, not gonna lie, spent a lot of my life eating a hell of a lot of Raisin Canes because I am super lazy and just want to order food and not cook it myself. I can make a salmon, a pork chop, and that's about it. I can make those two things pretty consistently, and I do make those things a lot because, I like saving money, and cooking does help you save money. But the point I'm trying to get at is, I found a dish that not only I love, but I can cook consistently, and dang it, I think I can cook it pretty well, because holy crap, it's great. So, back to my father. He loves making Thai ground chicken. This stuff is so good. When he makes it, oh my God. I remember the first time I ate it because, I had never eaten ground chicken before at that point. And when I tasted it for the first time, I was like, mwah, it was so good. It's like one of the only spicy dishes I really love. And because again, I'm not I haven't said this before, but I'm really not a spicy person at all. But this stuff, oh, it was so good. And every time he'd make it, I got so giddy and excited and happy. And I remember my family, we all would just we would chow that stuff down. All right, there would be no leftovers. Even if we were planning on leaving leftovers, like if my mom needed something to heat up at work, we wouldn't leave any because we would always forget because we loved that stuff so much. And eventually, I just called up my dad and I was like, Dad, I gotta learn to make this stuff, okay? Because at this point, I'm obviously not good. I unfortunately don't get a lot of his cooking anymore, and I miss that ground chicken. He gave me, a rundown of the ingredients, and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And through his guidance and a few YouTube tutorials, one of which I believe you're seeing on screen right now, if it's, if you can see it through the lighting issues, but yeah, through a few tutorials and my father's guidance, I managed to make my first batch of Thai ground chicken while watching The Great with my mom, who I invited over to help me taste test it. And man, not gonna lie, I did a great job that first time. And second time, okay, I overdid the soy sauce a little bit, but man, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. I've made it perfectly every time. If there's anything about me, I am really good at doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. I'm great at that. And I love doing that. I love a good old-fashioned cycle. And right now, I am in the cycle of cooking Thai ground chicken. I love this stuff. It's so good. The recipe is easy. It's simple. Most of the work is in the prep, just cutting up the basil, cutting up the garlic, cutting up the onion. The only thing that's a little bit wishy-washy is the soy sauce and the fish sauce that you got to put in. That you kind of need to like do the taste, which makes it a little wishy-washy. All I do really is just put the soy sauce over it, then count for 8 seconds, then put the fish sauce over it and count for 8 seconds, and then boom, you got it perfect. But man, this stuff is good. Even as a guy who doesn't like spicy food, it's so good. I mean, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. I made some just before recording this podcast, and I've got some left over in the fridge. I'm so excited for tomorrow when I'm going to eat more of this stuff. I love this dish. Recommend to anyone. That is absolutely my thing of not only this week, but probably my thing for life, because I feel like I'm going to be cooking this dish a lot in the future. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed them, please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our RPG horror story series where we cover the best worst Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you so much, by the way, on the support on the last episode. It's getting lots of views. Lots of guys seem to be loving it, and I really appreciate that. But you know, in any case, if you guys want to check that out, linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Kryssalian to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't leave a comment, leave the comment. Canceled for what? So let me know when you made it to the end of the video. And that's like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.